Hello guys, in this section, let's actually go ahead and build out the first component right here, the subcomponent of the actor agent right here, which is going to be the responder agent. Okay, so the reason why we call both of these agents as subcomponents of the actor is because the base chat prompt template, the prompt template is going to be of the actors, and both of these subcomponents are going to use the same, basically reuse the same prompt as that of the actor. If that does not make sense, don't worry. Let me just quickly copy paste some code right here. You can see that I've already created a folder called Reflexion agent system. I've created another file called chains. So this file is what is going to house all of the different chains that we are going to be building. All right. So let me copy paste something right here and let me walk you through it. All right. So all that I've done here is that I've just called it the actor agent prompt, and then I've imported chat prompt template and the messages placeholder. No different to what we've done in the reflection agent in the previous section. All right. So let's actually go back to the diagram. Let's see what is the goal of this responder agent. So we know that the goal of the responder agent is to finally, after so many processing, finally we need a response like this, right? Let's keep it very simple. Let's keep it very high level for now. The responder needs to output a JSON, and the JSON then needs to be converted into a proper Python dictionary that is going to have this particular structure, right? So the initial response should have the response, the content of the blog post, the critique of the written blog post, the search keyword terms, all of that needs to be available, right? So this is exactly the goal, and that is how we are going to be writing the prompt as well. So let's actually go look at the prompt of the actor. All right. So you can see that we have the system, which is going to be, you are an expert AI researcher, and then we are also providing the current time right here. Why do we need the current time? It's not really super important to understand this, but to give you a very high level, let's say you're giving a task to the agent to talk about something that happened recently, current affairs or something like that. It having access context of what time it is can be important, because accordingly it can make Google searches and then figure out if it actually needs to do something or not, if it actually needs to look at Google or not, right? So we have the first instruction right here. This first instruction, basically we've got 1, 2, 3. These 1, 2, 3 corresponds to these things right here. Okay, so we've got the response, critique, and search. This is going to be for response. This is going to be for critique. This is going to be for searching. Okay, so we will dynamically import this later. This alone can change depending on whether you're building the responder agent or the reviser agent. But for now, since we are only focused on building the responder agent using the actor prompt template, so we are going to have it as a placeholder right here. I hope that makes sense. This will later on, write a 250 word blog post right here. Okay, that would be the instruction. Let's look at the second one. Reflect and critique your answer. Be severe to maximize improvement, right? We want it to be really severe about what it has just written. It is all going to happen in one single, to and fro, right? After the reflection, list 1 to 3 search queries separately for researching improvements. Do not include them inside the reflection. Okay, so we're also providing, instructing it to provide the search list of search queries as well. And then finally, we also have a messages placeholder that could be, this could be the place where the actual human message would come and sit. So the human message in the future, when we actually run it, it's going to be something like, I want a blog post on, this particular topic. So that human message is going to come sit inside of here. And then finally, we have another system message, which is just to, we don't really need it right here. But the reason why we provide, this answer the user's question above using the required format, the reason why we provide it at the bottom as well as the top is because LLMs tend to, pay a bit more attention to what happened at the start and what happened at the end. So we just just to make sure we are providing this. So this is going to be the prompt template. This is not really something that I wrote. This is a prompt template that is very standard for the Reflexion agent system. I pulled it from the internet. So yeah, that is what I've done here. So let's actually go back to the diagram. So you can imagine that, if I were to, use this prompt template and if I were to, invoke that particular chain, send it to the LLM and invoke that chain, it is going to give you, a response with this particular response. It's going to give you a critique, it's going to search. All of it is good. But at the end of the day, we want something concrete like this. We want a Python dictionary. We want a proper dictionary or like a model that we can actually access the values from, so that we can extract those things and then send it to the execute tools and do a lot of other things, right? But you can imagine that LLMs are a little messy. They sometimes don't provide the right properties. They sometimes, tend to mess up as well. So it's a tricky thing. But we actually have a solution to basically force the LLM to ground the LLM to provide a response in a particular schema. Okay, so that is going to be the main takeaway in this particular section. So let's actually look at how the exact processing is done. What are the different what are the different steps that we have to take to ground the response of an LLM to provide a JSON structure in a very, we are forcing the LLM to provide a schema. We're forcing the LLM to provide the response in a particular schema. Okay, so let's actually look at how that is being done. So I'm calling it the LLM response parser system. So let's actually understand the theory behind it, and then we'll jump into the practical stuff. This system converts unstructured LLM outputs into well-defined Python objects through a series of structured parsing steps, ensuring data validation and consistent formatting. So what are the key components? We have already written the actor prompt template. That part is done. Let's look at the next one. Function calling with a pedantic schema. And then the third one is going to be something called a pedantic parser. So since we already understand chat prompt template, let's actually move on to the second one, which is going to be the function calling with a pedantic schema. So we already know what tool calling or function calling is, but just to give a refresher, similar to how we make tools available to the LLM, we can also send a schema to the LLM and force it to structure its JSON output according to the schema. But what is pedantic right here? So we already understand the function calling, we understand schema, but what is this pedantic? A Python library that defines data structures using classes. It provides automatic validation of JSON data against these class definitions. So to quickly recap, we just defined the schema and then we add it as a tool during our function call to the LLM, and the LLM is going to call that particular tool, structure its output accordingly. Very simple. Let's look at the last one, the pedantic parser. It takes the JSON output from the LLM's function call. It validates it against the defined pedantic schema or the class definition. It creates instances of pedantic classes with the validated data. If the LLM's output does not match with the defined schema, it will throw an error. So this pedantic parser, you might have some difficulty imagining what it could look like. So basically, the previous pedantic model that is a tool that we make it available to the LLM, that is basically just going to ground the output of the LLM. Okay, it's just going to force the LLM to structure its output in a certain way. But we also need another line of defense, wherein we also have to validate if the output of the LLM is actually adhering to the schema, to the model, pedantic model. Okay, so that is what this pedantic parser does. It takes the JSON output, it validates it, and then it is going to create an instance, a class or a model, and it makes it easier for us to use Python and then extract the stuff and then start working with it. Okay, so these are the steps. So far what we've done is we've written the actor prompt template right here. The next step is we need to actually go ahead, and before we start invoking it, we actually need to go ahead and create a schema file right here. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. So to do this, I'm just going to copy paste some code right here and let me walk you through it. All right, so this could be a lot, so let's take it one step at a time. So what I've done is I've imported from the pedantic module, I've imported the base model as well as the field. Basically, let's not overcomplicate it. The base model is just giving you the tools to define a schema. Very simple. All right, so let's go back to the diagram. So what are the three things that we need? We want the main response, we want the critique of the generated response, and then we want the search. And that is exactly what we're providing right here. Okay, so we defined a class called answer question. We are providing in the based model right here. And first off, we need the answer, right? So the answer is going to be in a string format and the field is going to have a description, right? So here we are actually suggesting a 250 word detailed answer to the question. Okay, so not only are we providing the 250 word prompt in the chat prompt template, we're also doing it here. So there is like a double, defense where we are grounding the response of the LLM properly. Okay, so we have the response right here. Okay, so the first one, the response is done. The next thing is we can probably provide in the search and the critique, right? And that is exactly what we've done. We want the search queries to be a list of strings, and the description is going to be 1 to 3 search queries for researching improvements to address the critique of your current answer. And then finally, we have the reflection here as well, which is going to be the critique. We can name it whatever we want, but the reflection is going to be your reflection on the initial answer that is going to be right here, right? So that is what it is. And also note that this reflection is also going to have two different sub properties, right? So you can see that we have missing as well as something called superfluous. Okay, so we'll get to what that is in a minute, but missing is, it is a critique of what is missing. So whenever we are, reflecting on, or rather critiquing on a particular passage or something like that, we either think of it in terms of, this could be shortened or this could be made better, right? So that is what we're talking about. Missing is like, what is missing, what could be made better. And then superfluous is what is excessive, what is redundant, what is not needed, right? So a critique of what is superfluous. All right, so this is going to be the base schema that we are now going to use to ground the response of the LLM properly. So let's actually go ahead and do that. So let me come back to the chains. Let's see if everything is done. Okay, there's one more thing that I want to do. I want to do a partial and I want to pre-populate the time. Okay, I don't really want to do it during invoking. So let me just paste this right here. So basically this partial method is something that you can use to pre-populate placeholders, before even invoking a particular chain, right? So that is what we've done right here. We are making use of the datetime module of Pythons. All right, so now let's go ahead and write the chain for the responder agent. So what I can do is I can call this first responder prompt template. So here I can make use of the actor prompt template right here. And I just want to fill up the first instruction. Okay, so you can imagine the first instruction is going to be a very simple, write me a 250 word blog post, right? So that is exactly what I'm going to fill it up right here. So I'm just going to say first instruction, provide me a detailed 250 word answer. Okay, so the first responder prompt template is now done. Now I'm going to create the chain for the first responder. So I'm going to call it first responder chain, and I can use this particular prompt template, and then I can pipe it with the LLM, right? So when I pipe it with the LLM, remember we also have to provide in that answer question tool that we have written right here to the LLM, so that it can call that tool and then use that tool schema to ground its response. So I'm just going to say LLM dot bind tool. Okay, so we haven't actually provided the LLM yet, right? So let's actually quickly go ahead and do that. So to do that, I'm just going to go to, from LangChain OpenAI, import chat OpenAI, and I can come down here, say LLM is going to be equal chat OpenAI. I can send in the model to be GPT-4o. Okay, perfect. All right, so now the bind tools method is going to be available. So inside of here, I can provide in the answer question schema that we've just written in the schema, this thing. So let's just quickly go ahead and import that as well. So I'm just going to say schema import. The name of this is going to be answer question. So let's import that and let's just go ahead and provide that, and that is it. So we provided this particular tool, and since we are actually confident that this is the only tool that the LLM has to use, right? We don't want it to use multiple tools. We are sure we are mandating the LLM to only use this particular tool. So there is another property that we can actually provide, which is called tool choice. And inside of this, in a string, we can just provide the same thing right here. So this is going to force the LLM to call that one particular tool, structure its output in that particular schema properly. Perfect. So if you remember, we also need to pipe it with something else. So not only is it enough that we get the JSON response, we also have to convert the JSON response into a pedantic class so that we can easily sort of interact with it, extract data out of it. So to do that, I'm going to be using the pedantic parser. So that is going to be OpenAI's pedantic parser. So I'm just going to come up here and I'm going to paste this line. So here, basically from the core package, output parsers, OpenAI tools, and I'm going to be using the pedantic tools parser right here. And I can just come down here and I can instantiate it. So I can just say pedantic parser, and I can just basically call this and provide in the tools as well. So it will know exactly how to extract the information, and now I can provide it right here. All right, so now all that is left is to basically just invoke this chain with a human message. Basically whatever I as a human, I as a marketer want to prompt this particular system. Okay, so I'm just going to say first responder chain dot invoke, and right here, if I come up here, you can see that in the messages placeholder, we have the messages variable, right? So I'm just going to say messages, and this is again going to be a list, right? So inside of this list, I can just put the human message. Okay, it looks like we have not imported it up here. So I can just say from LangChain core messages import human message. Let's copy this, put it here, and then so for the content, I can just say something like, you know, write me a blog post on how AI can, or rather how small businesses can leverage AI to grow. Okay, very simple. Now this is going to give us the response. Let's go ahead and print out the response as well. Perfect. So let me make sure that everything is looking fine. All right, so let's go ahead and run it. Let's hope that everything works fine. Perfect. So you can see that we've gotten the response in the exact same structure that we wanted, which is in the format of the pedantic class itself. So we have the answer question, inside of which we have the answer right here. And then let's actually go back to the schema. Let's see, you know, so yeah, so we can see that the answer is right here. Okay, there's not really enough space for us to look at everything. Okay, so we've got the answer right here. And then we have the search queries as well. So let me actually copy paste the search queries here. You can see that the search queries is also going to be a list of 3 things. So how small businesses use AI, AI tools for small business growth, AI benefits for small businesses, right? And finally, we have the reflection here as well. And you can see that inside of the reflection class, we have the missing as well as superfluous. So in the missing, it is saying the current answer lacks specific examples of AI tools or services that small businesses can use. And then we have the superfluous as well. Okay, this is basically saying this is overly detailed, right? Make it shorter, right? So you can see that we are getting all the data in the exact format that we needed it. I know that this output in the terminal can be a little difficult to read. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and create a new project. Let's actually generate a new API key and then copy this thing and then come back to our environment variable. Let's paste it right here. We don't really need the API, the OpenAI API key, because we already have this here. Let's come back and let's clear this out. Let's try to run it again. So let's actually like delete off all the terminals and then let's run it again. So let's give it a few seconds. All right, perfect. So let's actually go back to our Langsmith and let's see. Perfect. So we actually have something that is generated right here. So let's actually go inside, look at the traces, and right here you can see that this runnable sequence is going to be the high level, overview of what happened. So here we have the human message provided, and here we have the output, right? So you can see that it's a neat list of just one, object, and that is going to have the class, the pedantic class or the pedantic model. and you can see that it has the answer, right? Okay, it can be a little bit difficult to read in the terminal, so I tend to come here. So you can see that this is the answer, and then finally the reflection is going to be, these are the things that are missing. Okay, we're not talking about costs, we're not talking about the technical expertise. So you can see that it is generating this thing, and it is also critiquing itself. It is saying these are the things that are missing. Superfluous is like these are the things that are redundant or excessive, right? This mention of AI driven customer service, it's considered generic. Be more specific is what it's saying. And then it is also suggesting some search queries for the next component. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute, but these are the search queries: AI for small business growth, AI tools for small businesses, and then finally small businesses AI solutions. All right, so this is going to be the high level thing. If you further want to look at what were the outputs of each and every single component, we have it right here. So this was the original prompt template, right? So you can see that this is already populated. This was the first instruction that we provided, human, system, and then this was the output. Okay, so this, you can see that this is a very simple JSON output. The LLM is actually grounding its response properly based on the pedantic schema that we've provided. So this is going to be the tool call ID. If you do not know why this is for, we'll cover that in a few minutes. But yeah, this is going to be the output of the LLM, which is a proper JSON object. Perfect. And if you want to know what this pedantic tools parser did, it basically just took this entire JSON object, and then it just basically formatted it in a pedantic model sort of a way. And this can also be helpful in certain situations. Perfect. So in this section, we wrote the prompt template for the actor agent, and then we used that prompt template to write the responder prompt template, and then we created a chain out of it. And then we also learned exactly how to parse and ground the response of the LLM into the structure, into the structured format that we wanted. And we've learned so much in this section, so that even in your own projects, you know exactly how you can actually ground the response of a particular LLM's output, right? All right, so great. So we are done with these two sections right now. In the next section, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be doing the same thing for the revisor agent. And once we're done with that, then we'll come back to building the execute tools. So I hope you learned a lot, and I'll see you in the next section.